The teacup trembled in my hand as I set it down, the delicate china clinking against the saucer. Across the immaculate living room, my mother-in-law, Brenda, peered at me over her reading glasses, her lips pursed in that familiar look of disapproval. "Louisa, dear," she said, her voice dripping with false sweetness, "I couldn't help but notice you've been spending an awful lot of time at that quaint little bookstore lately. Shouldn't you be focusing on more substantial pursuits?" I forced a smile, my fingers twisting the napkin in my lap. "I enjoy my work at Margaret's shop, Brenda. It's fulfilling, and I'm good at it." Brenda's eyebrow arched. "Fulfilling? My dear, stocking shelves and ringing up romance novels is hardly what I'd call an intellectual endeavor. Surely you could find something more befitting your position as Kenneth's wife." The familiar sting of her words made my cheeks burn. I opened my mouth to respond, but the sound of the front door opening interrupted us. "Hello? Anyone home?" Kenneth's voice called out. "In here, darling," Brenda chirped, her demeanor instantly shifting. "Your lovely wife and I were just having a little chat." Kenneth appeared in the doorway, his professorial tweed jacket slightly rumpled. He smiled warmly at me before bending to kiss his mother's cheek. "I hope you two are getting along," he said, oblivious to the tension in the room. "Oh, splendidly," Brenda replied. "I was just encouraging Louisa to consider broadening her horizons, perhaps auditing one of your classes at the university." I bit my lip, willing myself not to react. Kenneth's face lit up at the suggestion. "That's a wonderful idea, Mother. What do you think, Lou? You've always said you wished you'd gone to college." Trapped, I nodded weakly. "I'll think about it." Brenda's triumphant smile made my stomach churn. "Excellent. Now, Kenneth, tell me about your latest research. I'm dying to hear about it." As they launched into an animated discussion peppered with academic jargon, I quietly excused myself and retreated to the kitchen. Leaning against the cool granite countertop, I took a deep breath, trying to calm my racing heart. The sound of footsteps made me straighten up. Kenneth appeared, concern etched on his face. "Everything okay, Lou? You seemed a bit off in there." I plastered on a smile. "Just a headache. I'll be fine." He frowned, unconvinced. "Are you sure? I know Mother can be a bit intense sometimes." "It's nothing," I insisted, hating the lie even as it left my lips. "Really, Ken, go back to your mom. I'm sure she has plenty more to say about your work." Kenneth hesitated, then nodded. "All right, but if you need anything." "I know," I said softly. He gave me a quick peck on the cheek before heading back to the living room. Alone again, I sagged against the counter. The weight of Brenda's constant criticism, the feeling of inadequacy that gnawed at me daily, it was becoming unbearable. But how could I explain that to Kenneth? He adored his mother, saw her as the brilliant, accomplished woman she presented to the world. He'd never understand the cruel barbs she reserved for me when he wasn't around. My phone buzzed, a welcome distraction. A text from my sister, Emma. "Guess what? I got tickets to Brenda's lecture series at the library next month." Can you believe it? I'm so excited. I stared at the message, my heart sinking. Even my own sister was under Brenda's spell. How could I tell Emma that her idol, the woman whose podcast she religiously listened to, was the same person who made my life miserable? The voices from the living room drifted into the kitchen, Brenda's cultured tones dominating the conversation. I closed my eyes, feeling more alone than ever. Something had to change. I couldn't go on like this, pretending everything was fine while slowly crumbling inside. But what could I do? The thought of confronting Brenda, of potentially driving a wedge between Kenneth and his mother, terrified me. And yet, as I listened to her holding court in the next room, a small spark of defiance ignited in my chest. I was done being invisible, done being the perfect, compliant daughter-in-law. Somehow, some way, I would find the strength to stand up to Brenda and reclaim my own voice in the process. The shrill ring of my phone jolted me awake. Fumbling in the dark, I answered groggily, "Hello? Lou. Oh my God, you'll never believe it." Emma's excited voice pierced through my sleepy haze. I sat up, rubbing my eyes. "Em, what's going on?" I squinted at the clock. 6:30 in the morning. I know, but I couldn't wait. I just got engaged." My drowsiness evaporated instantly. "What? Emma, that's wonderful. Congratulations." As Emma gushed about the proposal, I felt a genuine smile spread across my face. My little sister getting married. It was a moment of pure joy in what had been a trying few weeks. "Lou?" Emma's voice turned hesitant. "There's something else I wanted to ask you." "Of course, anything." Well, I was hoping you could ask Brenda to be a guest speaker at the wedding reception. You know how much her work means to me, and it would make the day so special. My stomach dropped. Oh, I don't know. Please, Lou, I know it's a lot to ask, but you're so close to her. I'm sure if you asked, she'd say yes. Close to her. If only Emma knew the truth. But how could I burst her bubble? How could I tell her that her idol was the same woman who made my life a living hell? I'll see what I can do, I heard myself say. After hanging up, I buried my face in my hands. How had I gotten myself into this mess? Later that morning, I found myself at Margaret's bookstore, desperately seeking advice from my former boss and confidant. Oh, honey, Margaret said, her kind eyes filled with concern. You've got yourself in quite a pickle, haven't you? I nodded miserably. I don't know what to do, Margaret. I can't bear the thought of Brenda ruining Emma's wedding with her condescension, but I also can't bring myself to tell Emma the truth about her. Margaret pursed her lips thoughtfully. Have you considered talking to Kenneth about this? Maybe if he understood the situation. I shook my head vehemently. You don't understand. Kenneth worships the ground his mother walks on. He'd never believe me. Then perhaps it's time to stand up to Brenda yourself, Margaret suggested gently. The very thought made my palms sweat. I don't know if I can. Margaret reached across the counter and squeezed my hand. Louisa, you're stronger than you give yourself credit for. Don't let Brenda's words define you. As I left the bookstore, Margaret's words echoed in my mind. Could I really stand up to Brenda? The thought both terrified and exhilarated me. That evening, I found myself alone with Brenda in her study. Kenneth was working late, and I knew this might be my only chance. Brenda, I began, my voice shakier than I'd like. I have a favor to ask. She looked up from her book, one eyebrow raised. Oh? And what might that be? I took a deep breath. My sister Emma is getting married, and she'd love for you to be a guest speaker at the reception. Your work means a lot to her. Brenda's lips curled into a smirk. Your sister, the librarian, correct? How quaint. I felt my cheeks flush with anger. Emma is brilliant and passionate about literature. She admires you greatly. I'm sure she does, Brenda said dismissively. But really, Louisa, a small-town wedding? It's hardly the appropriate venue for someone of my stature. I clenched my fists, willing myself to stay calm. It would mean the world to Emma, and to me. Brenda's eyes narrowed. And why should that matter? You may have fooled my son with your simple charms, but let's be clear, you and your family will never be on our level. Her words hit me like a physical blow, but instead of shrinking away, I felt something snap inside me. Our level? I said, my voice low and dangerous. And what level is that, Brenda? The level where you tear others down to make yourself feel superior? Brenda's face contorted with rage. How dare you speak to me like that? I'll have you know. No, I cut her off, surprising myself with my boldness. I've had enough. You may not respect me or my family, but I won't let you ruin my sister's happiness. As I stormed out of the study, leaving a sputtering Brenda behind, I felt a mix of terror and exhilaration. I'd finally stood up to her, but at what cost? And how on earth was I going to explain this to Emma? The morning after my confrontation with Brenda, I woke to find Kenneth already gone. A hastily scribbled note on his pillow read, Emergency department meeting. We need to talk later. My stomach churned with dread. I barely had time to process this when my phone buzzed. Emma's name flashed on the screen. Lou, have you asked Brenda yet? I'm dying to know what she said. I closed my eyes, steeling myself. About that. Oh no, Emma's voice fell. She said no, didn't she? The disappointment in her voice broke my heart. Emma, I'm so sorry. I tried, but... It's okay, she interrupted, her tone falsely bright. I get it, she's probably super busy. Thanks for trying, sis. As we hung up, I felt a surge of anger. How dare Brenda crush my sister's dreams? And how could I let her get away with it? Determined to set things right, I marched over to Brenda's house. I found her in the garden, pruning her prized roses. Louisa, she said coolly, not looking up. I thought I made myself clear yesterday. Crystal clear, I replied, my voice steady. That's why I'm here. You're going to reconsider. Brenda laughed, a harsh sound. And why would I do that? Because if you don't, I'll tell Kenneth everything. Every insult, every cruel remark you've made behind his back. She finally looked at me, her eyes narrowing. You wouldn't dare. Try me, I challenged, my heart pounding. For a moment, we stared each other down. Then Brenda's lips curled into a sneer. Go ahead. Who do you think he'll believe? His accomplished mother or his quaint little wife? Her words stung, but I refused to back down. Are you willing to take that risk? A flicker of uncertainty crossed her face. Fine, she spat. I'll speak at your sister's little gathering, but don't think this changes anything between us. I nodded, turning to leave. As I reached the gate, Brenda called out, "Oh, and Louisa? You might want to have a chat with your husband. He seemed quite perturbed this morning." My blood ran cold. What had she told Kenneth? I rushed home, my mind racing. As I burst through the front door, I found Kenneth waiting for me, his face grim. "Where have you been?" he demanded. I went to see your mother," I admitted. Kenneth's expression darkened. "So it's true then? You've been harassing her?" "What? No, Kenneth, that's not." "She told me everything, Lou. How you've been pressuring her, making unreasonable demands. She's upset, and frankly, so am I." I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. "Kenneth, please, you don't understand. Your mother, she's not who you think she is." "And what's that supposed to mean?" He snapped. Tears welled in my eyes. "She's cruel, Kenneth, the things she says to me when you're not around." "Stop it," he cut me off. "I won't listen to you badmouth my mother. She's done nothing but try to help you, to elevate you, and this is how you repay her?" "Elevate me?" I echoed, incredulous. "By constantly reminding me that I'm not good enough, that I don't belong in this family?" Kenneth's face softened slightly. "Lou, I'm sure you're misinterpreting things. Mother can be direct sometimes, but she means well." I shook my head, realizing with a sinking heart that he would never see the truth. "You're right," I said quietly. "I must be misinterpreting things." As Kenneth relaxed, visibly relieved, I made a decision. If he wouldn't believe my words, I'd have to show him the truth another way. "I think I'll go lie down," I murmured. "I'm not feeling well." Kenneth nodded, already turning away. "Good idea. And Lou, please try to make things right with Mother." In our bedroom, I sank onto the bed, my mind whirling. I tried playing nice. I tried standing up to Brenda directly. Nothing had worked. There was only one option left. My hand trembled as I reached for my phone, pulling up the voice recorder app. If this was the only way to expose Brenda's true nature, to protect myself and my family, then so be it. As I hit the record button, a mix of fear and determination coursed through me. This was it, the point of no return. The days following my decision to record Brenda's behavior were a blur of anxiety and guilt. Every interaction with her became a potential opportunity, my phone always at the ready in my pocket. But as Emma's wedding drew closer, Brenda seemed to sense my newfound resolve and kept her distance. Then, 3 weeks before the big day, everything imploded. I was in the kitchen preparing dinner when Kenneth burst through the door, his face ashen. "Lou, we need to talk, now." My heart plummeted. "What's wrong?" He slumped into a chair, running a hand through his hair. "It's Mother. She's refusing to speak at Emma's wedding." "What?" I gasped, genuinely shocked. "But she agreed, she told me." "Well, she's changed her mind," Kenneth interrupted. "She says she can't possibly lower herself to address such an unsophisticated audience." The words hit me like a slap. I gripped the counter, steadying myself. "Did she actually say that?" Kenneth nodded miserably. "Lou, I'm so sorry. I had no idea she felt this way about your family. I tried to talk her out of it, but she won't budge." In that moment, something inside me snapped. All the fear, all the hesitation I'd felt about exposing Brenda evaporated. "I have to tell Emma," I said, reaching for my phone. "Wait," Kenneth caught my wrist. Maybe we can find another speaker. Someone from the university, perhaps?" I stared at him, incredulous. "Are you serious, Kenneth? Your mother just insulted my entire family and you want to cover for her?" He flinched. "I'm not covering for her. I don't want to ruin Emma's big day." "Emma's day is already ruined," I shouted, surprising us both with my vehemence. "Don't you see? Brenda has been doing this for years, tearing me down, making me feel worthless, and now she's doing it to my sister." Kenneth's face crumpled. "Lou, I had no idea. Why didn't you tell me?" The fight drained out of me. "Because you never wanted to see it," I said softly. "Because she's your mother, and you love her." We sat in heavy silence for a moment. Then Kenneth spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. "What do we do now?" I took a deep breath. "I need to tell Emma the truth. All of it." He nodded slowly. "Okay. And then?" "And then," I said, a newfound determination stealing my voice, "I'm done letting Brenda control our lives. It's time she faced the consequences of her actions." As I dialed Emma's number, my hand shaking, I knew there was no going back. The conversation that followed was one of the hardest of my life. Emma's initial disbelief gave way to hurt, then anger. Not at me, but at Brenda, and at herself for idolizing someone so cruel. "I'm so sorry, Em," I said, tears streaming down my face. "I should have told you sooner." "No, Lou," she replied, her voice thick with emotion. "I'm sorry I didn't see what you were going through. But what do we do now? The wedding's in 3 weeks and we don't have a speaker. I hesitated, then made a decision that would change everything. Actually, I have an idea about that. Do you remember Margaret, my old boss from the bookstore? As I outlined my plan to Emma, I felt a weight lifting from my shoulders. For the first time in years, I was taking control of my life, standing up not just for myself, but for my family. After hanging up, I turned to Kenneth, who had been listening silently. I need you to understand something, I said, meeting his eyes. What I'm about to do, it's going to change everything. Are you with me? He reached out, taking my hand in his. I'm with you, Lou, whatever it takes. In that moment, I knew. The time for secrets, for quiet suffering was over. Brenda had no idea what was coming her way, but I did, and I was ready. The next morning, I woke with a sense of purpose I hadn't felt in years. My phone felt heavy in my hand as I scrolled through the recordings I'd managed to capture over the past few weeks. Brenda's voice, dripping with condescension, filled the room. Really, Louisa, I don't know why you insist on embarrassing yourself like this. A book club? How quaint. I winced, remembering the sting of her words, but now they fueled my resolve. As I dressed for the day, Kenneth stirred. Lou, what are you doing up so early? I took a deep breath. I'm going to see your mother. He sat up, alarm clear on his face. Are you sure that's a good idea? It's necessary, I replied, my voice steadier than I felt. I need to give her one last chance to make things right. Kenneth nodded slowly. Do you want me to come with you? I shook my head. No, this is something I need to do alone. The drive to Brenda's house felt interminable. My palms were sweaty on the steering wheel as I rehearsed what I would say. As I pulled into her driveway, I saw her peering out the window, her lips pursed in disapproval. Louisa, she greeted me coldly as I entered. To what do I owe this unexpected visit? I steeled myself. Brenda, we need to talk about Emma's wedding. She waved a dismissive hand. I thought I made myself clear. I have no interest in addressing such a provincial gathering. That's not good enough, I said, my voice stronger than I expected. You agreed to speak. Emma is devastated. Brenda's eyes narrowed. And why should I care about the feelings of your simpleton sister? The words hit me like a physical blow. Before I could stop myself, I blurted out, because I have proof of how you really are. Her face paled. What are you talking about? With shaking hands, I pulled out my phone and played one of the recordings. Brenda's voice, cruel and mocking, filled the room. Her eyes widened in shock, then narrowed in fury. You little snake, she hissed. How dare you record me without my knowledge? How dare you treat me and my family like this? I shot back. For years I've endured your insults, your constant belittling. No more. Brenda's composure cracked. What do you want from me? I want you to apologize to Emma. I want you to speak at her wedding as promised, and I want you to start treating me with respect. She laughed bitterly. Or what? You'll show those recordings to Kenneth? He'll never believe you over me. Her words hit a nerve, but I stood my ground. Are you willing to take that risk? Because I am. For a moment, we stared each other down. Then, to my shock, Brenda's shoulders slumped. Fine, she spat. I'll do it, but this changes nothing between us. As I left her house, my heart pounding, I felt a mix of triumph and dread. I'd won this battle, but at what cost? Back home, I found Kenneth waiting anxiously. How did it go? I sank onto the couch beside him. She agreed to speak at the wedding. But what? He pressed. I took a deep breath. Kenneth, there's something I need to show you. As I pulled out my phone, my finger hovering over the play button, I knew I was about to change our lives forever. The recordings would expose Brenda's true nature, but they would also shatter Kenneth's image of his mother. Was I ready for the fallout? I looked into my husband's concerned eyes and made my decision. With a trembling finger, I pressed play. The recordings played, filling our living room with Brenda's caustic voice. Kenneth's face paled, his eyes widening with each venomous word. I watched, heart pounding, as the truth I'd lived with for years finally came to light. I can't believe this, Kenneth whispered, his voice cracking. All this time, how could she? I reached for his hand, but he pulled away, standing abruptly. I need to talk to her. Now. Kenneth, wait. But he was already grabbing his keys, storming out the door. Panic seized me. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. I fumbled for my phone, dialing Emma's number as I raced to my car. Em, it's happening. Kenneth knows everything. He's on his way to confront Brenda. Oh, God, Lou, what can I do? Meet me at Brenda's. Hurry. The drive was a blur. I arrived just as Kenneth was pounding on Brenda's front door. Emma pulled up seconds later, breathless and wide-eyed. Brenda opened the door, her face a mask of confusion. Kenneth? Louisa? What's the meaning of this? Kenneth pushed past her into the house. We followed, the air thick with tension. How could you, Mother? Kenneth's voice was low, dangerous. All these years, treating Louisa like this? Brenda's eyes darted between us, realization dawning. She showed you those ridiculous recordings? Kenneth, surely you can't believe. I heard it myself, he roared. Your voice, your words, how you've belittled and insulted my wife, my family. Brenda's composure cracked. Now, darling, you have to understand, I only wanted what was best for you. Louisa, she's just not our kind. The room fell silent. I felt Emma stiffen beside me, her hand finding mine and squeezing tight. Kenneth's voice was ice. Our kind? And what kind is that, Mother? Cruel? Elitist? That's not what I meant. Then what did you mean? I found myself speaking, my voice steadier than I felt. All these years you've made me feel small, worthless. But I'm not the problem here, Brenda. You are. Brenda's face contorted with rage. How dare you? After everything I've done for this family. Family? Emma interjected, her quiet voice cutting through the chaos. Is that what you call this? Tearing people down, making them feel inferior? Brenda turned on her, sneering. Oh, the little librarian speaks. Tell me, dear, how many advanced degrees do you have? How many published works? That's enough, Kenneth bellowed. The room fell silent once more. Mother, I want you out of our lives. All of our lives. Brenda paled. Kenneth, you can't mean that. I'm your mother. Not anymore, he said, his voice breaking. Not after this. As the weight of Kenneth's words sank in, Brenda's facade finally crumbled. She collapsed into a chair, her shoulders shaking with silent sobs. For a moment I felt a flicker of pity. Then I remembered all the pain, all the sleepless nights, all the times I doubted myself because of this woman. It's over, Brenda, I said softly. You've lost. We turned to leave, but Brenda's voice, small and broken, stopped us. Please, don't do this. I'll do anything. I'll speak at the wedding. I'll apologize. Just please. I looked at Kenneth, then at Emma. Their faces mirrored my own conflicted emotions. It's not that simple, I finally said. Words aren't enough anymore. As we walked out, leaving Brenda alone in her grand, empty house, I felt a mix of triumph and sorrow. We'd won, but at what cost? Outside, Kenneth pulled me into a fierce embrace. I'm so sorry, Lou. I should have seen it sooner. I held him tight, feeling the tears I'd held back for so long finally spill over. Emma joined our hug, her presence a balm to my raw emotions. As we stood there, united in the aftermath of the storm, I realized this wasn't the end. It was a new beginning, for all of us. But what that beginning would look like and whether Brenda could ever be a part of it remained to be seen. The days following our confrontation with Brenda passed in a haze of emotional turmoil. Kenneth was a shell of himself, alternating between bouts of anger and periods of deep, brooding silence. Emma threw herself into wedding preparations with a frenetic energy that worried me. And I felt hollowed out, unsure if I'd done the right thing. A week before Emma's wedding, the other shoe finally dropped. I was at Margaret's bookstore, seeking solace in the familiar smell of old books and her comforting presence, when my phone buzzed. It was Kenneth. Lou, you need to come home, now. His tone sent chills down my spine. I rushed back, my mind racing with possibilities. Had Brenda done something? Was Kenneth having second thoughts about cutting her off? I burst through our front door to find Kenneth pacing, his face ashen. It's all over the university, he said without preamble. Someone leaked the recordings. The world tilted beneath my feet. What? How? He shook his head, running a hand through his disheveled hair. I don't know, but everyone's heard them. The dean called me in this morning. They're considering revoking Mother's emeritus status. I sank onto the couch, my legs suddenly weak. Oh God, Kenneth, I'm so sorry. I never meant for this to happen. His eyes met mine, a storm of emotions swirling in their depths. Didn't you, though? Isn't this exactly what you wanted, to see her fall? His words stung like a slap. That's not fair, I whispered. I just wanted her to stop hurting us. Before he could respond, my phone rang. It was Emma, her voice tight with panic. Lou, have you seen the news? Brenda's all over social media. They're calling her the elitist professor. It's bad. My heart sank further. Em, I'm so sorry. Your wedding. Forget the wedding, she snapped. Lou, what have we done? As I hung up, feeling the weight of guilt crushing me, Kenneth's phone chimed. His face paled as he read the message. It's Mother, he said quietly. She's in the hospital, apparent suicide attempt. The world stopped. In that moment, I saw with terrifying clarity the consequences of my actions. Yes, Brenda had been cruel, had made my life miserable. But this was never what I'd intended. We have to go to her, I heard myself say. Kenneth nodded, his eyes haunted. As we drove to the hospital in tense silence, I couldn't help but wonder, had I become the very thing I despised? In my quest for justice, had I lost my own humanity? At the hospital, we found Brenda in a private room, looking small and frail in the stark white bed. Her eyes, usually so sharp and judgmental, were dull and unfocused. Kenneth, she whispered, her voice barely audible. Louisa, I stepped forward, my heart pounding. Brenda, No, she interrupted, her hand trembling as she raised it. Let me speak. I've done terrible things, to both of you. To Emma, I see that now. Tears welled in her eyes, a sight I'd never thought I'd witness. I was so afraid, she continued. Afraid of losing my status, my influence, afraid of not being needed. I lashed out at you, Louisa, because you represented everything I feared, and in doing so I nearly lost the only things that truly matter. She reached for Kenneth's hand, then mine. To my shock, I found myself taking it. Can you ever forgive me? She asked, her voice breaking. I looked at Kenneth, saw the conflict in his eyes that I felt in my own heart. Could we forgive her? After everything she'd done, everything that had happened, as we stood there, the future hanging in the balance, I realized we were at a crossroads. Our next words, our next actions would determine not just Brenda's fate, but our own. Could we find a way forward, or was the damage too great to repair? The weight of that decision pressed down on me, leaving me breathless. Whatever came next, I knew our lives would never be the same. The months following Brenda's hospitalization were a whirlwind of change and introspection. As I stood in our nursery, gently rocking our newborn daughter, I marveled at how much our lives had transformed. Brenda's fall from grace had been swift and merciless. The university revoked her emeritus status, citing ethical violations. Her colleagues distanced themselves, her speaking engagements dried up. The woman who had once loomed so large in our lives suddenly seemed small and vulnerable. Kenneth struggled with the aftermath, torn between anger at his mother's past behavior and concern for her well-being. I watched him grapple with these conflicting emotions, my heart aching for the pain he endured. Emma's wedding had been a bittersweet affair. The shadow of recent events hung over the celebration. But there was also a sense of relief, of burdens lifted. As I watched my sister exchange vows, I felt a glimmer of hope for our family's future. Now, as I held my daughter, I found myself at a crossroads. The anger and resentment I'd harbored for so long had left me feeling hollow. The victory I'd thought I wanted tasted like ashes in my mouth. A soft knock at the door pulled me from my reverie. Kenneth entered, his eyes tired but warm. How are my girls doing? He asked softly. I smiled, passing our daughter to him. We're good, just thinking. He cradled her gently, a look of wonder on his face. About? I took a deep breath. About your mother. About everything. Kenneth's expression grew serious. Lou, we need to talk about that. I've been thinking, maybe it's time we reached out to her. My heart raced. Are you sure? After everything that's happened? He nodded slowly. I'm not saying we forget or excuse what she did, but seeing her like this, alone and broken, it's made me realize that holding on to anger isn't helping any of us. I thought of Brenda, once so proud and imposing, now living in a small apartment, cut off from her former life. The image stirred something unexpected within me, compassion. You're right, I said, surprising myself. But Kenneth, if we do this, we need to set clear boundaries. For our daughter's sake, if nothing else. He smiled, relief evident in his eyes. Of course, we'll do it together on our terms. As we stood there, our daughter nestled between us, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. The path ahead wouldn't be easy, but for the first time in years, I felt hope. The next day, we visited Brenda. She opened the door, her eyes widening in surprise at the sight of us and the baby carrier in my hand. Kenneth? Louisa? Is that? I nodded, stepping inside. Your granddaughter. We thought it was time you met her. Tears welled in Brenda's eyes as she gazed at the sleeping infant. She's beautiful, she whispered. I never thought. I didn't dare hope. Mother, Kenneth said gently, we want to try and move forward. It won't be easy, and there's a lot to work through. But if you're willing to try, so are we. Brenda's hand trembled as she reached out, hesitating before touching her granddaughter's tiny fingers. I don't deserve this chance, she said, her voice thick with emotion. But I promise you, I'll spend every day trying to earn it. As I watched Brenda with our daughter, I felt the last vestiges of my anger melt away. In its place was a cautious optimism, a hope for a future where the cycles of hurt and resentment could be broken. Later that night, as Kenneth and I lay in bed, our daughter sleeping peacefully nearby, I reflected on the journey that had brought us here. The pain, the anger, the desire for revenge, it had all led to this moment of healing and new beginnings. "What are you thinking?" Kenneth asked, his hand finding mine in the darkness. I squeezed his fingers, a smile playing on my lips. "I'm thinking about second chances, about the power of forgiveness, not just for others, but for ourselves." As I drifted off to sleep, I felt a sense of peace I hadn't known in years. The road ahead would have its challenges, but I was ready to face them. With love, understanding, and the wisdom born from our struggles, we would build a future where our daughter could thrive, free from the invisible scars that had haunted us for so long. In the end, I realized the greatest revenge wasn't in tearing others down, but in rising above the pain and choosing a path of compassion and growth. And in that choice, I found a victory sweeter than I could have ever imagined.